Hello, and welcome to another episode of ISI Insiders, the flagship podcast of dreams, especially engineering dreams. Now, here I mean dreams of engineers, of course, but also how to engineer dreams, how to turn, as we say here, information into impact. And here on ISI Insiders, we get a chance to go inside of Information Sciences Institute, or the famed and now 50-year-old Information Sciences Institute, to meet some ISI insiders. These are the folks from across the Institute doing a range of crazy, cool tech and science work. And I really want to spend some time understanding better their what, that is what they're doing, their how do they get here to do that, but perhaps more importantly, their why. That is, they could go anywhere. They could do anything. Why are they here? Why are they working on what they're working on now? And why should we care? So, reminder, I'm Adam Russell. I'm the director of the AI division at USC's ISI. I'm your podcast host. And along with Nina, the Wonder editor, I'll be serving as your virtual guide as we talk to some of these ISI insiders, because I think talking to the humans who are doing this work will be very, very informative and revealing, as much about the tech as about the humans. And I think that's important because it's the humans who are driving this, right? The humans who are helping craft where we're going. And as I plan to talk to our guest today about where we think we should be going and how we might get there. So my guest today is Dr. Steve Crago, who really does, I think, embody the spirit of this idea of engineering dreams into reality. Bear with me, Steve. I know this is uncomfortable. You just think I'm doing a job. But Steve's been at the ISI for nearly 3 decades, rising from a computer scientist in 1997 to his current role as associate director of the entire institute and driving probably certainly one of our flagship programs here at ISI, the California Dreams Project, which we'll unpack a little bit. I'm not going to go too much more into detail about Steve because we're going to have Steve sort of reveal these. I want to get into the layers of the onion that is Steve Crago. Steve, welcome to ISI Insiders.
Thank you. That's a great introduction. I hope I can live up to it.
It sort of set the scene for like what we're going to do here, which is like, you don't know what's coming next. Let's start, though, with a fairly predictable question that I like to ask all the guests. I would like to come with you back in time. So today's Steve Crago talks to, let's say, 12 or 14-year-old Steve Crago, and explains to 12 or 14-year-old Steve what you're doing today and how you got here. And then the key question is, would that blow 12 to 14-year-old Steve Crago's mind, or would he think like, well, yeah, that makes sense?
Well, I'll start with the last part, which is an easy one. It would definitely blow
your mind,
the mind of my 12 to 14-year-old self.
Okay, let's go there.
Well, when I was in school, I liked math. And I thought I wanted to be a mathematician because I liked math. I thought mathematicians do math. And my dad who was an engineer, or maybe still is an engineer, although he's retired.
Once an engineer, always an engineer, I think, in my experience.
Yeah, definitely. And he said, if you like math, you can't be a mathematician. Nobody makes money as a mathematician. You have to be an engineer.
Not wrong, probably, as it turns out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I listened to him and I set out to become an engineer. As high school ended, I applied to Purdue.
Before you go on, can you, in reflecting, what was it about math that you liked? What was it doing for you?
I like the logic of it. I like to be able to solve problems. I like things to be concrete and true or false.
And yeah, here you are.
Turns out to be a lot different from what I'm doing now.
I was going to say, now you're working and managing people and large projects where, man, if there's logic, it's hard to find, and true or false would be nice to have, but rarely. Okay, so get back to the story. Sorry.
So I knew so much of the computing industry was in California, and so I applied to graduate schools knowing I wanted to go somewhere elsewhere than Purdue. USC was the top school I got into, and I was fortunate to be recruited by Al Despain, who became my advisor. Mm-hmm. And in terms of getting me to where I am now, about midway through my PhD, Professor Despain moved his research group from the main campus of USC to ISI. And so our research moved here to the Marina where I'm sitting today. And by the time I finished my PhD, I was looking for a job in the Northern Virginia or DC area. Happened to be the same time ISI was starting ISI East at the time, now known as ISI Arlington.
That's useful.
And that worked out perfectly for me. It was within my research area, brought me where I needed to be, and allowed me to stay a part of ISI, where I've been very happy to be since.
Okay. So we know that if something doesn't interest you, you are willing to jump and find something that will. You've been here for so long. clearly this place must continue to interest you. In addition to the projects you've done, and I know you've run projects for DARPA and NASA and other big funders. I mean, what is it that you find interesting about the Institute?
Well, there are many things, but to start with, I've never had a time where I've been bored at ISI.
Okay.
Uh, Not even a day, maybe an hour if I'm sitting in a meeting, not ISI meeting, of course, but
Of course not. No, all our meetings are yeah, fascinating.
maybe a conference talk or something where I've maybe had a little bit of boredom, but never a boring time at ISI. I have moved from one research area to the other, partly in response to sponsor needs and what was being funded, partly out of interest and partly out of opportunity.
Mhm.
What I'm doing now is really not very closely related at all to many of the other things I've done in my career. So there's lots of opportunity for change and adapting.
You don't have to address AI directly, but what worries you most nowadays through this sort of technological convergence, growth of complexity? Like what worries
Well,
Steve Crago?
well, keeping to my little domain of microelectronics here, a couple of thoughts. One is the security of microelectronics.
Okay.
So if you open up the design and the design is less constrained, you may get far better performance or better efficiency or things that a human couldn't have thought of. But then there may be vulnerabilities that a person doesn't anticipate, and an AI system that's come up with that design may not have been programmed to consider. And so there's risk in the security of the microelectronics. And then when you deploy those microelectronics into AI systems or networks, then the risk of damage is real and is something that we have to worry about at a societal level. Another thing that we are worried about here in the United States right now is the fact that very little of the advanced production of microelectronics is done in the United States. And so there are geopolitical risks to that. And that's why the goals of the Microelectronics Commons program are so important, to try to bring back domestic manufacturing and prototyping capability so that in the United States we have control over the microelectronics that we're manufacturing.
Check. Yeah. That makes sense. And that's sort of one of the questions I had about the larger system design is we can get our hands around microelectronics or some of the technological developments, but when we're trying to put them in the service of what we really care about is democracy, right? It's ultimately the country and the vision we have for it. But let's ask this question then: Do you have any hobbies that you do not involve directly math, but you feel like contribute to your team building, your skill set, your performance here?
Well, probably my biggest hobby is running.
Okay. Show
Running.
off.
Running is only indirectly related to what I do, but there are relationships.
Mhm.
I do long distance running. One of the things that I think I like about long distance running is you can't fake it and you can't get lucky. So
Like it.
this is not a great example, but I could throw a basketball at a hoop, and I would never be a good basketball player, but sometimes it'll just fall in. In running, like, you can't just accidentally run a 3-hour marathon or, pick a time.
Yeah,
You either have the fitness or you don't. If you have the fitness, you can have a bad day and not be able to do it. You can be unlucky, but you can't be lucky.
that's interesting.
So there's a really direct relationship between the work you put in, kind of the objective measures of how you're progressing and the work that you're putting in, and the result you're getting out of it.
Okay, well, let's push that a little bit. I mean, from your experiences running, like what do you take from that? What do you bring to work from the running experience?
Well, this may sound trite, but the importance of persistence and preparation is clear. Like I said before,
There's no luck.
you can't run a long distance race if you haven't prepared for it. I think the same in work. You can't fake your way through preparation and having done the work.
That that does not sound trite at all. Especially from someone who yeah, both embodies it but also demonstrate it regularly. So, words to take away. What additional words that I'd like to hear you say. If someone, let's say a young up and comer is interested in this area, could be microelectronics, could be more broadly, applied research. What and given how crazy the world is getting, like what advice would you have for them?
Well, there's find good people to work with.
Okay. How do we do that?
Some of it's luck, I guess.
Oh.
You have to look around at the people doing work in the area that you're interested in
Hmm.
and find a number of possibilities of people you could work with, because
Hmm.
not all of them are going to work out. Spread the possibilities out and give yourself a chance to find the right place.
Yeah, give yourself the best chance. I think that's right.
Yep. And then once you do that, when you're at a place, you can still look around and find the best place, the best people to work with. And I'm not suggesting you should just move from group to group,
Hmm. Hmm.
but find where your niche is and how you can fill it and how you can learn something and make progress and move on to the next thing after that.
Annie Duke is one of my favorite writers. Has written a series of books. One is called Thinking in Bets, and the most recent one is called Quit. And she makes the argument that so there's giving up, right? Not ideal, but there's actually quitting, and quitting should be seen as a virtue, right? At some point, you should quit because doing something, persisting in something that's either not paying back or you're not enjoying, is also costing you these other opportunities. How do you think about that? How do you come to the conclusion of I need to quit this so I can do something else?
I think that I've often not thought in those terms because nobody likes to think that they should quit, which is why she wrote that book. But I have looked for the next opportunity. And in my case, it hasn't been the next opportunity is the next job to go to because I haven't moved. I've stayed here at ISI. But the next area to research, the next proposal opportunity, the next program manager to work with, there's always an opportunity to do something different and new. And so maybe that's a way to implement the concept that you're talking about.
Yeah. Just keep an eye out on what's next in some sense. Um, a lot of my previous podcast guests, I asked, like, what do your friends and family think about what you do? And if they're in the AI, like they become the AI whisperer for the family. What do your friends and family think about what you do? Do you get calls about, hey, I'm worried about my transistor?
I do not. Mainly what people think is they don't quite understand what I do. Although, I saw somebody give a talk and it's true. Until the Chips and Science Act, for sure, in the general public, not very many people thought about microelectronics. But the Chips and Science Act and the emphasis on bringing back manufacturing of microelectronics in the United States has made a difference. And people do understand that it is something that's important and that people are glad that we're working on it. And so I do see that making a difference. And it is important to get more people involved in this research area. The other thing that's different, and I talked earlier about the scale of California Dreams, but I have never thought about publicity for a project before. I've thought about paper publications,
Hmm. Hmm.
giving a talk at a conference. I have never thought about having to drive people to pay attention to what we're doing. And in California Dreams, one of the goals is to make sure that what we do is sustainable. And we're offering a service through a part of our organization called Moses 2.0.
Hmm.
And in order for something to be financially self-sustaining, people have to know about it and they have to come use it. And so we're doing things, like advertising on LinkedIn and putting regular posts on other kinds of social media and the kinds of things I've never thought about doing before.
Yes, oftentimes very counterintuitive to people who do the research and scientists in general. This notion of like it almost feels like a betrayal of some sort, right? Or the instinct is, well, I feel like I'm cheapening it somehow, I'm having to sort of dumb it down in some sense. By the way, you guys have not done that. I've been very impressed with the way you've been advertising, as it were. I also think it's from my own time at DARPA and the other ARPAs. There is real value to being able to boil this thing down, to give me a bumper sticker so I understand what you're doing. That is not a cardinal sin. That is a skill set to be able to do that.
It's funny, just today I was in a meeting where we were talking about how to bring users into Moses 2.0. And somebody said, I don't want to be crass, but could we do something like offer a discount? And I said, crass, what are you talking about? We're trying to bring users. It's a business. It's research related, but it's a business and we're trying to bring users in. And we do need to talk about things like that.
Yeah. No, and I've also been very impressed with your openness and willingness to think more broadly about this. If you have done a masterful job at building teams, working in areas that are high consequence, where impact's important and where you don't know what the world's going to look like in 5 years. I need help. I'm the director of an AI division at an applied research institute. AI is just, I mean, anybody who tells me what the world looks like in 5 years with AI, I don't make eye contact. I back away slowly because there's no way you can know that. What do I do as a director? What guidance do you have for me?
Well, I don't know that I'm qualified to give you guidance, but one thing I would say is we just have to figure out what we can work on now.
Hmm.
As you said, we can't predict what's going to be true 5 years from now. The administrations will change, the funding environment will change. It could be anything. But we're not going to have the chance to make a difference in 5 years and to be in a position to react to that environment if we don't make it through this environment.
You're here.
So we just have to find the things we can work on today.
No, I think you're right. So be great where we are right now, right? Add value, figure out what we can work on now. But, let's also plan for success in some sense. So how should we be thinking, the Institute, but certainly myself, thinking about what right looks like in 5 years?
Well, one thing that I think we're all already thinking about is how we can provide services that are beyond our traditional research model. Services are a chance to put research into practice. So there are technical reasons to do service. They allow us to learn about real problems and connect us to people who have those problems and make sure that our research is relevant. And then research can also have other kinds of benefits that might, I don't know the right way to say this, sound crass, but generate excess revenue that will allow us to have unrestricted funds that will allow us to make it to the next year or 5 years to do those next great things.
And find the talent and be able to support them to make their mark in some sense too. It is a tough business model right now. But at the end of the day, you have to do well to do good, right?
Yep, that's right.
I'm tracking on that, no question.
Yep. I also wanted to go back to the statement that you can't get lucky. I want to qualify that.
Okay.
I've gotten lucky many, many, many times. So you can get lucky, but you can't get lucky if you're not prepared. Luck certainly plays a big part in many of our success.
Yeah.
Being in the right place in the right time. But if you're not prepared to be in those situations. And so my statement as it related to running, I was lucky to be able to run the Boston Marathon. So that is luck. But you can't be lucky in the sense of being able to do something that you're not prepared to be able to do.
Yeah. I had an intellectual mentor who once said to me that the problem with true luck is that the people who are the luckiest oftentimes don't know how lucky they are. And the people who you said are prepared, who work hard, they're the ones who know what luck looks like and appreciate it and are able to, really use it. What do you think is the biggest misconception around microelectronics that you run into?
Okay, so I think the biggest misconception with microelectronics is that the advances in microelectronics come for free and processing or whatever microelectronics capability there might be is just going to come for free. And every 18 months it gets twice as good and there's no limit and nobody has to do anything different to make that happen.
Yeah, why do we have to put money in this stuff? It's just it's happening magically. Yeah, that's right. Like AI. Why do we have to invest in that now? We have all the talent we need.
Yeah, just train the models.
That's it. The models will be fine. Oh, that's a great misconception. Ooh, and hopefully we'll wake up from that one soon. We are out of time, but I know again, everything you're doing, big problem, important problem, hard problem, and as well as what you're doing for the Institute in all seriousness. I'm here because I believe that we need to exist. I believe in our why. And I draw great strength from the fact that you also are here and believe all these things too.
Thank you. I feel the same, Adam. I know we're in different places with different projects, but the way you're thinking about helping us reimagine the Institute while I'm off just running in one direction is really great and important and valuable. And I'm glad that we'll have the chance to participate in this workshop over the next couple of days too.
Yeah, amen, brother. And again, so thank you for everything you do for us, for the country. I hope we're still talking in 5 years.
I'm sure we will be.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this short podcast, please do what we ask you to do every time. Please rate us, grade us, rank us, give us feedback, tell us what you think, offer up odd questions. I'm always open to jokes if you can't tell, especially since now I can do a community service and spread those jokes to my fellow ISIers. But mainly, make sure you continue to listen. please, and join us for another episode of the ISI Insiders. As we go into ISI, we talk to the humans and we have them work with us to explore this weird world that we're in, doing really what humans do best in these kinds of situations. And that's acting as if our lives depend on each other, because they do. So for now and for the future, fight on.